Team Canada and head coach Holger Osieck, the streak is over. The national team battled hard but suffered its first defeat with Holger in charge, losing to a determined Iranian side 1-0 on Friday. If not for the goalkeeping of Pat Onstad, who made save after save, the score could have been much worse. Today, Canada looks to bounce back in front of their home fans. Their opponents from Ecuador have been dominant, led by number 9, Ariel Graziani, who dazzled the crowd Friday, finding the back of the net twice in a 3-1 win over Guatemala. Now, Graziani looks to lead his country to the Canada Cup title. Ecuador and Canada get fancy. Next on the net. There's a look at Edmonton, Alberta, where we're getting set to wrap up the 1999 Canada Cup Soccer Tournament. Today, Canada takes on Ecuador. Hi everyone, I'm Roger Millions and welcome back to Commonwealth Stadium for what should be a very interesting matchup. Ecuador has been literally brilliant so far in the Canada Cup tournament, unbeaten to this point in time, while Canada is 1-1 thanks to their 1-0 loss to Iran on Friday. Still a great test against Ecuador, a chance for our young national side to prove their worth. And everyone on Team Canada realizes they will be in tough against Ecuador.
They have the composure on the ball and they know how to play, and I knew that before the game, and I think they're ahead of our team right now, but now we know where we have to go and what we have to do.
They have tremendous speed up front, obviously a very skillful team as most South American teams are, but the speed is what really worries me more than anything, so we'll have to be aware of that and we'll have to respect their speed and maybe drop off a little more than we're used to, but having said that, hopefully we should hold them.
It will be indeed interesting to watch our Team Canada against a very skilled squad from Ecuador. Now for their thoughts on the upcoming match, let's go upstairs to our play-by-play team of Jerry Dobson and Bob Leonarduzzi.
Thank you, Roger. Well, Bob, the most interesting thing about this match, I suppose, is that Canada has never played Ecuador before, and yet they always have trouble against other South American teams, so this truly will be a test for them.
Well, our experience against South American sides is very limited, but the games that we have played, we've only come up victorious on 2 occasions. And today we're facing an Ecuadorian team that are in the midst of preparing for a championship in their own region.
2 wins, 3 draws, and 5 losses for Canada in history over South American teams, but again have never played against Ecuador. And for this match today, Holger Osieck's got a challenge because his team is bumped and bruised, not only from this tournament and previous matches, but from a long season in Europe for most of these players. So he's got a challenge on his hand, and we may see some of the younger guys, because there's a few guys, half a dozen, that haven't played yet.
Well, and speaking with Nick Dasovic, he is probably reflective of most of the team. He's had a long season, he's been through the wars, and he's happy to see a break after this. Mike Franks, Lars Heisfeld, Brad Parker, Richard Hastings, all players that have been inactive to date, but could see action.
Due to injury, of course, and that's the main reason. So Canada and Ecuador, of course, Ecuador with a great chance to win the tournament. Canada, of course, looking to hang in there tough as well. That's the setup for now. We'll have it for you in just a moment. In the meantime, let's send it back down to Roger Millions.
All right, Jerry and Bob, it should be great. Canada with a nice challenge against Ecuador. That's coming up next on CTV Sportsnet.
Elevator to lobby. By George.
Contacts, $320. Treadmill, $800. Wonder Bra, $26. Facelift, $3,000. Being happy with who you are, priceless. There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's MasterCard. Happily accepted, most everywhere.
You ready for lunch?
Yeah, I'm starving.
You want to drive?
Sure.
Hungry? Whoa, not so fast, cowboy. The automobile is a very powerful machine. Let's check the manual, shall we? Congratulations on the purchase of your brand new automobile. Driving can be fun.
Extra hungry? Try McDonald's new taste, Big Extra. Tomato, lettuce, and a huge beef patty seasoned to perfection. Go for the whole meal for just $3.99.
We're approaching a pedestrian crossing.
Pedestrian!
Pedestrian?
Canada Cup Soccer on Sportsnet is brought to you by Adidas. Long live sport. JBC, when performance matters. MasterCard. There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's MasterCard, proud sponsors of World Cup 2002. And by McDonald's. McDonald's is proud to be a part of the 1999 Canada Cup of Soccer. Did somebody say McDonald's?
A sun-bathed Commonwealth Stadium as Canada gets set to take on Ecuador here in the final match of the Canada Cup. Check of the lineups, and for Canada, a couple of changes. Tony Menezes back in for Paul Fenwick. Menezes off a red card the other day, and Jason Bent playing for Davide Xausa.
Well, what's somewhat surprising here is prior to the tournament starting, Holger Osieck said he wanted to see a number of players. He's obviously happy with what he's seeing because he hasn't altered the lineup all that much.
And as far as Ecuador is concerned, a couple of surprises here. Their two big guys up front are not in. Instead, it's Moreira and Asensio.
And for different reasons. Hurtado, obviously, the coaching staff feels has been ineffective, and Asensio takes his place. Delgado sent off at the end of the last match, and Moreira takes his place, and they'll miss Delgado.
Hurtado and Delgado missing from the lineup. Hurtado, we're not sure why. Delgado on one-match ban. Set to go. Canada in red, moving left to right. Ecuador in gold and blue, moving right to left. And we are underway. A win for Canada would give them the Canada Cup championship. A tie, and Ecuador would win it.
And Canada today will face another style of play, somewhat similar to what they faced against the Guatemalans, but certainly Ecuador team more capable when they get into the final third of making things happen.
Ivan Hurtado.
One of the difficult things about playing against a South American side, a good South American side, is their willingness to interchange positions. They're never static, they're always moving.
7 is Luis Moreira moving into the box. That was John Kagawa, but knocked out by Carl Fletcher. A beautiful sunny day in Edmonton, temperature a little on the cool side, and the most important factor, Bob, probably the wind, because it's quite breezy.
Well, the wind, and also the fact that we had rain overnight, so the field is somewhat, well, it's slicker than it has been for the first games that have been played.
Jimmy Blandon with the corner kick in front. Jason Bent clearing, but not out of danger. The shot from Ivan Hurtado, not to be confused with Eduardo, who's their big man up front. Eduardo not in the lineup. Ivan Hurtado, the defender, is there.
Well, one of the Canadian players, poor corner kick, partially cleared by Bent, and Hurtado gets the strike. Must have gone off one of the Canadian players because we've got another corner from the opposite side.
Cleared away. Garret Kusch and Nick Dasovic both there. This is Ivan Hurtado again. Watched by Dasovic. Into the front, wide open. Whoa, baby, that was close. Carl Fletcher clearing.
Hurtado getting down the left. Gets past Nick Dasovic. Gets the ball into the 6-yard box, which is a great ball because Pat Onstad can't come. The Canadian defenders are facing their own goal. And fortunately, the Ecuadorian forward getting on the ball slots it wide.
That was Franklin Anangono for Ecuador in that case. Garret Kusch challenged by Anangono on that long ball. Stalteri. Bircham. Jason Bent. Dasovic. Carl Fletcher heads it in. And out of bounds it goes.
He's hurt.
Bircham down, and he's hurt. They might have collided heads. I misidentified. I had Bircham on the other side. That was Brennan. This is Bircham here.
It looks like he caught an elbow, and he's not moving. Moving very slightly.
Let's have another look. I think they went head to head or elbow to head.
Not a nasty challenge, but yes, he caught him with his elbow.
And so Marc Bircham. The crowd's silent here right now with Bircham down, although he looks like he's regaining his senses now.
And with the Canadians, when a player goes down and he stays down for any length of time, more often than not, they are injured, unlike our Costa Rican counterparts. And he definitely took an elbow to the head, but Unfortunately for Canada, he's up.
And it's going to have to be a lot more than that to take Marc Bircham out of the match. He is one scrappy kid. Stalteri, Watson. In for Kusch, didn't work. Jason Bent chasing it down.
Well, Jason Bent coming into the side will take up the position that Davide Xausa has had for the past 3 games, if we include Guatemala last Saturday, and he will be at the top of the triangle, and we'll have Bircham and Dasovic in behind, although they're more likely to interchange positions in that Davide Xausa was more of a striker.
In front for Stalteri. There's Bircham feeding it back for Bent. And the first good opportunity for Canada off the mark, but that was a nice bit of play there from the Canadians.
Got a corner kick.
That ball off the mark, but deflected over the line by an Ecuadorian defender.
Garret Kusch does a good job, as usual, of getting up and flicking it on. Bircham lays it into Jason Bent's path, and it's well off target, but along the way must have clipped an Ecuadorian defender, because Canada now have a corner.
Here's the corner. In front, Garret Kusch went up for it, but the keeper, Giovanni Ibarra, came down with it. Ecuador coming away. It is Blandon. Far side for Anangono. Ecuador moving forward now. De La Cruz. Kagawa. Fletcher right there. Kagawa still with it though.
Carl Fletcher with a good recovery after a good bit of skill by the Ecuadorian left-sided midfielder.
Ball into the box, and out comes Pat Onstad, who has played so well for Canada in this tournament, especially in the 1-0 loss to Iran. He was remarkable.
Well, it could have been much more had it not been for Pat Onstad, and he did a good job of textbook goalkeeping. Nothing fancy, just that his positioning was always right, making actually difficult saves look very easy. And Canada today will face an Ecuadorian team that relies on speed up front, and especially from Graziani, who scored 2 goals against Guatemala and actually laid on the 3rd.
Garret Kusch, the young rock-solid player who goes up for so many balls and comes down with most of them. Here's Jason De Vos, who took a knock in the kidneys from the goal by Ali Daei of Iran, but he's back in the lineup. He was hurt momentarily, but he's there. But a lot of these guys are suffering various bumps and bruises. Marc Watson here against Ariel Graziani, who scored a couple of goals in the 3-1 victory for them over Guatemala. In front, and there's Onstad.
And that's where Graziani likes to take players on when he gets into 1v1 situations. He'll have a tough time getting around Marc Watson, who's a very, very disciplined defender.
Kusch. Watched by Anangono. He's looking in front. He's got Bent there, but the keeper is there first.
Well, that's where you can see how Garret Kusch's game has developed. Twice he makes the same move, and on the second move, he gets an opportunity to get a good cross into the box, and we can see how far advanced Jason Bent is, who's almost actually getting on the end of that cross.
Play continues here in the Ecuadorian zone. Canada showing some pressure here in the early going. Good ball possession and a couple of opportunities.
Jason De Vos has come up and will utilize his long throw, looking for the head of Garret Kusch.
Ibarra clears away for Ecuador. He's got Graziani, but Watson heads it back. Jason Bent.
Well, Canada's crosses will have to be good ones today, because Ibarra appears to be quite comfortable coming off of his line and collecting crosses that are out near the edge of his box.
Ibarra again clears it away. And we're joined in the broadcast booth now by West Ham goalkeeper and Canada's #1 keeper, Craig Forrest. Craig, what do you think so far? Great result earlier as far as Canada is concerned. Guatemala tying Iran, and so Canada can win the whole thing now.
That's right. It opens the door for us, and it gives us, I think most importantly, we want to get a performance that will be a positive one, and the result will then come with that if we can then succeed in doing what we haven't really done, is having, we were talking about before, is having composure. And so far, the game's early, but the composure that Canadian players have shown so far has been terrific.
And boy, do I feel small beside you. 6'5". Keepers are always huge, aren't they? A good play in front there, and headed away at the last minute. I think that was Stalteri with that header, and the defender on the line there with Ibarra off his mark.
Well, Garret Kusch, making his presence felt, went up with a Ibarra and forced the ball out, and Stalteri had an open goal for a slight second, and the Ecuadorian defender scrambled back. Here you see Garret Kusch up, challenging Ibarra. The ball pops loose. Stalteri thinks he's got an open goal, but the Ecuadorian defender's back to clear the ball off the line.
Good work by Canada up front here in the early going. And Craig, the one thing that we have to talk about, I think, is the quality of goaltending with Canada. Year out, we bring in Pat Onstad, and with all due respect, we don't seem to lose a whole lot by bringing a guy like him in.
No, he's been, we talk about goalkeeping in Canada. It's been very, very strong, I feel, over the last 10 years. Paul Dolan played in the World Cup in '86. I think he's still the youngest keeper ever to actually play in the World Cup. Outstanding. And really, right through the years, we've had a lot of good goalkeepers coming through, and it's good to see. And we got a lot of good prospects coming up in all sorts of other positions. I saw Garret Kusch go up with the keeper there on the other end of the pitch, and it's good to see that, because I think he hasn't been quite as physical as he could be in the first 2 games, and that's good to see, because he's got such a physical presence that if he can throw himself around a bit, he'll cause trouble.
And on that last play there where Canada came close, I think Ibarra, the goaltender for Ecuador, might have hurt himself because he's down and being attended to at this point.
It's interesting, Craig, that you should suggest that perhaps Kusch could put himself about a bit more, because Holger Osieck feels the same way. He feels he's a bit of a gentle giant, and he doesn't quite know what he's got and how he should be utilizing it more.
Yeah, he's got an outstanding build on him as well. I mean, they should just put a maple leaf across his chest and play without a shirt, because he is absolutely cut. He's a frightening man.
Actually, what we should be looking forward to is Garrett's first goal, because he does have a trademark flip after he scores his goal, which is very acrobatic. Hopefully we see that today.
Now, Craig, update us on your situation, because we know that you had some problems earlier in the year with an elbow that has lingered on, and that's why you're not here.
That's right. I mean, it's nice to come in and be a part of the squad and to see the games, because I think that, as we're trying to, get to we see the big picture, and what we want to do is make the World Cup, and for some of the younger players, the Olympics, it's important that we get a squad of players, and we're a team unit. So that's why I came in. Obviously, I can't be playing, but it's just a pleasure to be here and seeing the guys and just supporting them as I can.
And it's such a short season to have a little bit of time off, because you go right back in it with West Ham United in what, 3 or 4 weeks perhaps?
That's right. 1st of July is actually the start of preseason, so it's not a long time to recoup from injuries. And I've got a elbow problem that so far looks pretty good, and it looks as though it's going to be clearing up, and that's what I'm having the time off for.
Play back underway now as the keeper Ibarra has been attended to and is okay. Here's Anangono now for Ecuador. Taken away, that's Dasovic. Back to De Vos. Menezes up there, trying to get the ball to him. Watson now for Bent.
Well, Canada so far doing a very good job of pushing up from the back.
As Graziani breaks free, and he's dangerous, but that time didn't get enough on it. Bad angle, and Onstad was there.
And that's one of the things that Pat Onstad had commented on prior to the game, was that perhaps they might have to drop off a little bit more than they have been in the previous 2 games. They've been trying to squeeze the space as much as they can.
Here's Stalteri in on number 3, Ivan Hurtado, and there's Kusch. And he'd like to have another go at that one, I would bet.
Yeah, it's always a tough volley. He's bounced in front of him, and he thinks he's going to be under pressure, and he's meeting the ball at a high point. It's very difficult to get any power and keep it down.
Half an hour still to go, first half. 0-0, Canada and Ecuador, the final match in the Canada Cup. And a win for Canada would give them the title. Jimmy Blandon. Looking for John Kagawa. He's found him. Headed out of danger by Dasovic.
And what the Ecuadorians are capable of that sequence we've just seen. They like to play short passes, but are always looking to spring someone over the top and in behind the Canadian defense. As of yet, in the first 15 minutes, Canada have done a good job of not getting caught.
Ivan Hurtado taking over to mount the offense for Ecuador. Alberto Montano, who had the goal for Ecuador against Iran in a 1-1 draw. Anangono.
Right now, Ecuador not able to get forward because, again, the Canadian defense have done a good job of pushing up and not leaving a lot of space for the Ecuadorians to play into in the middle of the park. Canada are content with this. As long as the Ecuadorians keep possession that far back, it really doesn't trouble the Canadian defense.
Ivan Hurtado again. Chips it ahead for Graziani. Bircham knocks it away. Montano.
And there's a good example. The minute the ball goes into the middle of the park, we saw 3 Canadian defenders around the 1 Ecuadorian player.
Tony Menezes to Stalteri.
That really could be the key in this game as well, is keeping the pressure on those midfield players, because they do have terrific vision, and the players up front make good runs. And if we can stop them having any time and put pressure on them to play those delicate passes through the middle, then that's going to be only good for Canada, because it will stop their supply up front.
Jim Brennan knocks it in front. Kusch could not quite get there. Goal kick, Ecuador. Here's Montano. Hurtado. Anangono. Slow build up, lots of passing. We saw them on offense against Iran, and they really like to work it in close if they can penetrate the defense. And that's what will be Canada's challenge, all right, is to stand up front. Menezes. Dasovic back to Menezes, and that was nearly a mistake there as Graziani nearly got hold of that one. Blandon hooks it in. This could be dangerous in front. Here's Graziani if he can get a foot on it, and he does, and opens the scoring for Ecuador.
That's Graziani. That's his 3rd goal of the tournament. Great skill. He had his back to goal when he received the ball, but showed great composure to turn and strike it. And Pat Onstad really had no chance with a shot coming from that closer range.
The first goal of the game, scored in the 17th minute by number 9 for Team Ecuador, Ariel.
Good run down the right, quality ball back into the middle of the goal, and no chance for Pat Onstad.
What you don't see on the replay is actually Canada. We were talking about having composure on the ball, but there's a time and a place to do that. Obviously, we got caught in the back playing around. You have to do it in the right parts of the park, and we got caught out. And when a team like Ecuador are going to punish you for any mistakes like that, and like they did, and like you say, Bobby showed great composure in turning and putting that one in the back of the net.
And that's the difference between Guatemala and Ecuador. Ecuador won't punish you if you do get dispossessed, or are very unlikely to punish you. But as you said, Craig, Ecuador is definitely a step up from Guatemala.
Well, and we talked about how Ecuador liked to move the ball in close, and that was about as close as you can get right there. And Graziani with lots of room. So now, the challenge for Canada to fight back here, trailing 1-0 on an early goal by Ariel Graziani. Canada must win this game in order to win their tournament. It's the only way that can happen. Stalteri, Bircham, bent.
And that's exactly what Canada need to try to do, is keep possession in the middle third of the field.
Ibarra moves away for De La Cruz. Long ball, and he's got Graziani up there, but Dasovic is in better position.
I know Holger's looking for Nick Dazo to basically be one of the leaders in the middle of the park now. Oh, here's the goal here. It's a good angle for us to see the composure he shows on the ball, and Pat's in a great position there, but from that close range, you're going to do well. The ball's just got to hit you to save that one. saying Nick Dasovic, you know, we want him to be, you know, in the middle of the park and be a leader, because now we've lost a few of the older players who have sort of gone their other ways. We need somebody in that middle of the park, and he's the older player. You know, we have a good mixed blend of mature players and youthful players, and we need those sort of players like Nick to come forward and basically be the leader and you know, lead these guys to the next step. And so far he's done a good job. He's a good player, and if he can keep going on like this, communication on the park from Nick, we can achieve a lot of good things.
I think one of the other things that Holger is looking for too in the middle of the park is that players are prepared to put their foot on the ball in the right areas and try and keep possession, so that the type of countries that you're playing against in World Cup qualifying, the Central American countries, if you allow them, if you continually give the ball back to them, you'll find yourself chasing, and that can be very frustrating. We've been through that in previous World Cup qualifying attempts.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at players in midfield, they're worth their weight in gold. If they can't put their foot on it, you know, take their time, show that they can give the supply for the players up front. You know, that's a good job. And Nick's got all the capabilities of doing that. We got lots of pace around him. Jason Bent's lightning. We got some, you know, a young player with Marc Bircham coming from Millwall in England, making his first trip to Canada, and he's had a terrific tournament. What I've seen of him, he's a good prospect, that's for sure.
25 minutes to go, first half. Ecuador up 1-0, and on offense now. Blandon. 14 is Luis Gonzalez. Back to Hurtado. Montano challenged by Kusch. Throw in Canada to be taken by Bircham. Menezes back in after a red card. De Vos. Stalteri. Watson. Bent to Fletcher. Good possession by Canada.
I mean, I don't know what you think, Bob, but just watching just even the first 20 minutes or so in this game, the difference is like night and day from the first two games as far as Canada's passing the ball around, and it is promising because things seem to be turning around. The players are looking like they got more confidence even now. I know we're 1 goal down, but it's still more promising, and they look a lot better than they did in the whole 90 minutes against Guatemala.
It is a better start, and I think what Canada have done is they've obviously raised their level up to the level of the Ecuadorian team. What the next progression should be is, once they've done that, once they get into that final third, to maintain their composure, because that's where it becomes more difficult. Obviously, the opposition in Ecuador, when it gets to that point, they're going to look to shut you down.
Let's send it down to Roger Millions, standing by on the sidelines. Roger?
All right, Jerry, thanks very much. You know, for the most part, Canada's had their opportunities in this first half, but Holger Osieck, for the first time I've seen in this tournament, has looked a little more distressed. I think he wants more out of his guys to seize an opportunity here, and we'll have to watch to see if they can respond a little bit more.
Okay, Roger.
Go.
Stalteri chasing that one down, but Ibarra, the goalkeeper, beat him to it. Sweeps it away for Montano. Kagawa. Bircham takes it from him, but the referee in this match, that's Antonio Mendoza, didn't like that one, and so it's Ecuador's ball.
And this Ecuadorian team, unlike Guatemala, who had essentially their under-23 side here, this Ecuadorian team are preparing to play in their zonal championships, and this is, for the most part, their full squad. So it's a good yardstick for Canada.
Back to Ibarra, and he'll send Ecuador on their way again. Well, Craig, it's been great having you here to join us. Unfortunately, it's too bad you couldn't take part with the team in this tournament, but it was great to see you, and we wish you well with your elbow and with the upcoming season with West Ham United.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.
All the best, Craig.
Thank you.
Caution handed out here by referee Mendoza as the Ecuadorian player Kagawa was taken down. Marc Watson booked in that case.
And a rather harsh booking. Marc Watson did well, came across, put his arms up in the air to suggest that he didn't want to commit the foul, and unfortunately for Canada, he receives a red card.
And there's the cross in from Blandon, still loose, still in danger. Garret Kusch clears it away. Kagawa will put it back in. Moreira taken away. Dasovic now. Kusch. Jason Bent from the Colorado Rapids of the MLS. And down goes Stalteri. So we talked about the rain last night, and it's still affecting this pitch as a few players slipping a little bit.
And from a footwear selection point of view, it's probably not soft enough for the players to be wearing 6 studs, and if you've got the multis on, that's more than likely why they're slipping.
Bircham with the throw in to Fletcher. Menezes. Not sure where that ball was intended, but it didn't work anyway. Brennan. Cleared by Blandon. Watson back to the keeper Onstad. 20 minutes to go, first half, still 1-0 Ecuador.
Just as Canada are trying to squeeze the space and make it tight to play through the middle of the park, same with the Ecuadorian back line. They're pushing right up, and there's not a lot of room in the middle of the park for the ball to be played into. And as a result, that's what can happen. Once the Ecuadorians decide to pressurize, there we see De La Cruz there, who's been one of Ecuador's best players operating down that right flank. But when they decide to pressurize, they go in with numbers, and they surround the man, the Canadian player in possession.
Throw into Ecuador. De La Cruz, who has played very well for this team. He's probably their most consistent man on that side. Oh, this looks good for Ecuador right here, and the strike just off the mark. From number 7, that was Luis Moreira.
Once again, another example of how dangerous the Ecuadorians are when they're in there. Look at the tight air, look at all the Canadian shirts, and yet they can still find the free man. And that shot did not miss by much. Good left-footed strike, just grazing the post.
Well, and we both felt that Ecuador is a very good passing team based on that 1-1 draw they had with Iran. They seem to really be able to move the ball around, and they're showing that talent so far in this game. Blandon here, far side for De La Cruz, who gets around Brennan. 11 is Asensio. Ecuador still with it. Moreira, the goal scorer. Kagawa. Jason Bent now, and he's pressured immediately and loses it. Not quick enough.
That it's either a case of not being quick enough, or it's the tenacity with which the Ecuadorians are looking to win the ball back. Every one of these Ecuadorian players is comfortable on the ball, from the goalkeeper Ibarra right through to the front man, and that's why it's difficult to close them down, because you think you've got them in a box, and they're quite comfortable when they're under pressure to play out of pressure as opposed to just aimlessly kicking it up the field.
Bircham now to put it back in. No good for Kusch. Knocked away by Ivan Hurtado.
Canada, after a good start and a run of possession, have dropped their heads a little bit at this point. Even though the Ecuadorians aren't necessarily taking the game to Canada, I think what Canada needs to do now is try to lift their game and get some strikes on goal and some opportunities generated.
Cleared away by Ecuador. Watson will put it back in. Graziani against Fletcher. Fletcher, though, headed it right to Luis Moreira. Menezes not a bent. offside for Brennan.
We see the difference in Jason Bent, who just took the free kick and knocked it out to Jim Brennan on the left. The difference in Canada's midfield is there is a lot more interchange in between Nick Dasovic and Jason Bent. Davide Xausa, who's more of an attack-minded player, primarily played in front of the two midfielders and in behind the two strikers, but right now there's more movement in the Canadian midfield, and that may be why earlier on we saw more possession by the Canadian team, because it's a little more unorthodox than they have been in the past.
Ecuador forward, and Canada again. Bent. He's got Stalteri. Bircham. Menezes. Bent, and he's challenged again. Bent having a rough go of it out there. There seems to always be somebody sneaking up on him. And there's a breakaway ball, but it's offside.
He's having a rough go, but you've really got to credit the Ecuadorian tactics when they lose the ball. They're not content just to drop off and allow Canada to have possession. They want to win it back, especially when it gets into their half of the field.
Kagawa. For Graziani, over his head and over Watson's head. Watson pushed him, apparently.
Jerry, something else that I've noticed is that Canada appears to have altered their tactical formation for this game. Marc Bircham is certainly adopting more of a role on the right side, and Carl Fletcher is playing more as a right fullback. So they're almost playing in a 4-4-2 situation as opposed to the 3-5-2 that they've had from the time Holger Osieck has taken over the team. And that, I'm assuming, is to better cope with the Ecuadorian attack.
And a change coming up for Canada early in this game. It looks as though Brad Parker will be coming on. Number 14, he has yet to see any action in this tournament. He played in the Northern Ireland game, but has not played in the Canada Cup. Throw in here to Ecuador. Kagawa. Parker can't find a moment to get on yet. Here's Bircham. Taken by Kagawa again. De Vos. Dasovic back to the keeper. Menezes. Watson. Slow build up here for Canada. Under quarter of an hour to go, first half. Hurtado. He was looking for Kagawa, but Bircham took it. Watson for Kusch. Can't control it.
Outside of the early stages of the game, neither Garret, Kusch, or Paul Stalteri have really had an opportunity to get a hold of the ball and keep possession.
Nick Dasovic coming off, and Parker will replace him. So Dasovic was really tired at the end of a long season. He's got a bad back as well. I saw him in a cafe the other day, and he didn't even want to sit down. His back is hurting so much. And on comes 19-year-old Brad Parker, a native of Scarborough, Ontario, who plays for Feyenoord in Holland. And he's a good one. Holger Osieck likes Brad Parker.
And another example of the youth youth movement that Canada are going with. The 19-year-old Parker coming in, and in the match against Northern Ireland, he looked very, very competent for such a young player.
So it's Parker on for Dasovic here, with 11 minutes and a bit to go in the first half. Owen Watson. And here it is in front. Stalteri can't get around his man. That was Franklin Anangono in his way, or he might have had a shot at that one.
Well, that's a good example of good defending. You don't necessarily win the aerial challenge, but you make it difficult for your opponent to win it at the same time.
Watson. Downfield for Stalteri, but headed away by Kagawa. #11 is Asensio. Kagawa. Good, quick little passes here. Asensio again. Broken up by Watson.
Canada just can't keep possession for an extended period of time.
Parker. Head for Stalteri, but Montano is there. And it's a goal kick.
And every time they do give the ball back to Ecuador, they do try to keep possession. And the longer the game goes on, and the longer that takes place, the more frustrated the Canadian players are going to become.
Iran leading this tournament at the moment with 5 points. Ecuador has 4, Canada has 3, Guatemala has 1. So the tournament to be won or lost right here. Onstad out, but stumbles on that one.
Pat Onstad coming a long way off his line to collect that cross, backpedaling, had a little stumble, but fortunately no Ecuadorian forwards in and around that area.
In front to Stalteri if he can get turned, and then he gives it to Blandon. I think he was looking for Jason Bent, but just could not find him. Fletcher now to Bircham. Bircham unable to accept that ball, and here comes Ecuador. It was Kagawa now to Graziani. Back to Kagawa. Watson is back off Watson, and it had Onstad fooled for a second. He was going the other way.
That's why you can't lose possession when you're one of the last men back. Marc Bircham coughed it up, and it almost resulted in a good goal-scoring opportunity for Ecuador.
Brennan. That was rather hopeful, that one, and Stalteri says, "What was that?" to his teammate Brennan. Here's Montano. Gonzalez. Bent moves up to take him on. Gonzalez retains possession. Kusch for Stalteri. And he challenges the keeper, Ibarra.
Ibarra coming for that one, had no intention of catching it. Just tipped it to one side away from Stalteri, who was on rushing, looking to try to get a flick on.
Anangono. Hurtado.
Well, the pace of the game has slowed completely down over the last 10-15 minutes. And that will suit Ecuador more than it will suit Canada.
Bircham just trying to fight through too many defenders there. And now they come away with it. Asensio for Ecuador. Moving into the center. De Vos challenging him. Asensio still with it. And passes it off to De La Cruz. Good work from Brennan.
Great work from Brennan. Very composed. And instead of just kicking it out for a throw-in, keeps his team in possession.
Throw into Canada. 6 minutes and a little more, plus stoppage time to go. First half, 1-0 Ecuador. And now it'll go to Ecuador. Canada needing something to get back into this one. Here's Graziani. Fletcher took him on that time.
Look at Jason De Vos defending here. Does well, stands up, doesn't commit himself, and forces Ecuador to go back out with the ball. And here we see Jim Brennan in another instance of good individual defending. Runs down Delgado, who's no slouch, and in the end, keeps his team in possession with a clever little backheel to Jason De Vos. That's good, composed defending.
Corner kick, Ecuador. In front. Moreira got a head on it, but it goes to Onstad now.
Oh, it would be nice for Canada to finish with a bit of a flurry at the end of the first half here.
Brennan. De Vos. Stalteri fouled from behind.
Well, one of the things that Canada can look forward to, and this is with all due respect to Garret Kusch and Paul Stalteri, but in a game like this, you need a bit of a game breaker, and Paul Pescasolito.
And a header there by Kusch. Just off the mark, but that was a good opportunity for Canada if Kusch had have got that one down a little bit.
Actually, it was an excellent cross, and Ecuador got underneath it. I think Garret would like that one back again because he was up and he just couldn't get over top of it. But as I was saying, Pescasolito, Rosinski, those are the types of players who you can get the ball to, and they're likely to create something from nothing. And that's the type of player that Holger Osieck needs up front in order to try to break down a very compact and disciplined team like Ecuador.
Under 5 minutes plus stoppage time. Jason bent. Bircham. Ecuador marking very well. Canada with little room to maneuver. Kagawa now.
Well, Bircham's having a tough time of it out on the right here. He's trying, but for the last 3 or 4 times in possession, he's given it up and he's allowed the Ecuadorians to counterattack. De Vos.
Kusch. Parker.
That's good play.
Stalteri on his man. Montano.
See a foul from behind by Paul Stalteri.
Here's Hurtado. Very tentative for Ecuador.
Well, Ecuador's in front right now. I think they're quite content to hang on the ball. Canada, at this point, have to come and make Ecuador come out of the back. And right now, the Canadians are quite content to allow Ecuador to have the ball.
Well, the difference seems to be, you're right, when Ecuador has the ball, they do what they want with it. When Canada puts a touch on the ball, there's somebody right there to try and take it from them.
Pressure. And that, from a team like Ecuador, everybody looks at the South American countries and they see the flair that most of the countries from South America play with, but they don't appreciate that they're very good defenders, and Ecuador are showing that today.
Garret Kusch. De Vos back to Watson. Kusch. For Stalteri, but Hurtado is there. Stalteri retains possession. Good work from him. To Brennan, then a cross in front. Bircham trying to get to it. Ibarra beat him to it, and then
just a little love tap.
Reaches to his aching back after that horrendous crash from Bircham.
That just about typifies Marc Bircham's day right there. The ball bounces off his heel and out of play for a throw, and he didn't even know about it.
field of play at any time. Any spectator entering the field
Gagoa back to
will be
Blandon.
ejected from the match.
Good move from him to escape Brad Parker, who fights back. Gagoa again, Menezes on him. Antonio Mendoza said, come on, get up, get off him. Menezes to throw the ball back in. Gagoa, one of the better performers on the left side for Ecuador. This is Watson who will put it in. Kusch fouled there by Montano. Watson. Menezes.
The minute the ball went square, the Ecuadorian defense pushed up 10 yards. That's again closing down that middle of the park.
De Vos, Jason Bent. Bent can't quite get to that one. Into stoppage time now.
And just a reminder for everyone's safety, city event bylaws prohibit fans from entering the field of play at any time.
Ibarra to put the ball back in play.
Entering the field of play will be ejected from the match.
At this stage, it looks as if Ecuador would be quite content to deal with any crosses that come into the box. And that's why I think Canada are going to need to mix it up a little bit, try and get good balls into the front men, and keep possession in and around the Ecuadorian penalty box. Because the Ecuadorian defense right now looks very solid, and they have looked solid in each of their past 2 games.
Well, and Canada, I think, is really going to have to come up with something new, something more creative in the second half, because if they are content to let Ecuador just pass the ball around, then they'll do it all day.
Well, that's the strongest part of their game.
Jason Bent. Bircham fighting off Gagoa.
I think the referee felt that they were both tugging at each other, so he just allowed the play to go on.
Anangono. Throw into Canada. De Vos.
Well, the game started off promisingly for Canada, but after the first 15 minutes, or after Ecuador scored, they seem to have gone a little flat.
Brennan. Stalteri. He had both Kusch and Bircham in front. The ball didn't get there, and Stalteri goes down.
The referee's doing a good job because each of them was fouling one another, and the referee just allowed play to go on.
That was Stalteri and Luis Gonzalez as De Vos sends it all the way back. Kusch for Bircham. He's got Stalteri. Couldn't get much on that one, unfortunately.
Interesting contrast to the game versus Iran as we look at Holger Osieck. In that against Iran, Pat Onstad was far more active. In this particular game, I don't believe he's had a hard save to make. And on the one good chance that Ecuador have had, they've scored.
Brad Parker. Bent. Looking for Brennan. Anangono is there. Brent and Brennan teaming up again. Stalteri. Brennan. Stalteri. Kusch and Menezes were both there.
It's interesting to see Menezes up on the edge of the penalty spot.
And that's the halftime whistle right there. So An interesting half, and yet Canada maybe slowing down in the pace of the game and completely slowing down towards the end of that half, especially after Ecuador got the goal from Graziani. And they laid back, and Canada seems content to let them pass the ball around, and you're not going to win by doing that.
No, I'm sure that Holger at halftime will try and recharge his troops. What they need to come out and do in the second half is generate the initiative, up their intensity, because right now the game has almost gotten to a standstill.
If Ecuador wins this game, in fact, if they tie this game, they will win the Canada Cup. Iran goes into this match leading Holger Osieck's team by 2 points. Ecuador has 4, Canada with 3, Guatemala with 1. And so the score, 1-0 Ecuador at the half. Let's check in with Roger Million, standing by with Mark Watson.
All right, Jerry, thanks very much. Mark Watson, what exactly is Team Ecuador doing as far as causing any concerns or problems for you?
Well, I don't think a lot, really. Over the course of 45 minutes, they got in a couple chances and got the goal, but I don't think they're really hurting us. I think we just have to stay concentrated, and you know, they're very slow in their build-up and try to lull you to sleep a little bit and then hit you with a quick attack. We just have to watch for those sort of things.
It would have seemed to be that Canada would like to look for a little more possession of the ball as well. Just when we seem to get something going, we lose possession of the ball.
Yeah, it's true. I think the game's pretty slow today compared to what we can normally see, but we got to, you know, knock around the back a little bit, give ourselves wide positions, and try to build it up a little slower.
Veteran defender Mark Watson, thanks very much.
Thanks a lot.
Mark Watson of Canada's national side joining us. It's 1-0, Ecuador leading. We'll have the second half coming up and our reaction in a few moments.
With sleek lines, a high-torque multi-speed engine, and an exclusive turbo rinse system, this high-performance machine deserves a high-performance detergent. New Maytag Atlantis and Liquid Tide for a high-performance clean.
Tim Hortons would like to thank you for taking part in this year's Camp Day fundraiser. Because of your generosity, we'll be sending over 6,000 deserving kids to camp. With your support, we've raised $2.5 million for the Tim Horton Children's Foundation. Thank you for making a difference.
Ariel Graziani with the only goals thus far. In the 17th minute of the first half, Ecuador leads Canada 1-0 at halftime. Well, throughout the Canada Cup tournament, we have seen some promising young Canadians strut their stuff. One of those young up-and-comers that have had a big impact this week is Paul Stalteri. If the name Paul Stalteri doesn't sound familiar to Canadian soccer fans, it soon will. The Brampton, Ontario native is forging a spot on the national team by doing the necessary things for success.
My work rate has to be high, and if I'm not in the game in terms of running and chasing and working hard, then the game, I find it tough to get into.
Only 21 years of age, Paul is confident in his ability and the ability of his teammates to represent Canada.
The young guys have a different attitude, as in, I mean, they're just, we've got a lot of talent on the team with young players, and we've got a lot of speed, and we've got a lot of, the work rate is so high. So that's so different in terms of before, where the Canadian teams may have lacked some speed in the midfield or at the back. Right now we have speed from the back to the front, and that's, you know, it helps so much when you have speed in the game. That's one of the most important things. And just the attitude. The young guys, we just have an attitude that, you know, whatever happens, we work hard, and, you know, we're not afraid to go and get a result.
And results are what Canada is looking for. Their world ranking has dropped to 93rd, but Stalteri isn't concerned.
If you want to make rankings important, I mean, I don't think it's real fair, but anyone can beat anyone on any given day. But I mean, it'd be nice for us to get our ranking back to where it was, say, 10 years ago. So hopefully that'll come with wins on the field. But yeah, the rankings will come with victory. So that's second most important.
What's most important for Paul is gaining a berth for Canada at the 2002 World Cup, a goal that is definitely attainable.
I think we have a great chance. I think 3 teams will qualify, and I don't see why Canada can't be one of those 3 teams in every time in CONCACAF qualifying. Because we have the team, we have the players. It's just a matter of how much we want it and how much dedication we're going to put towards it.
Dedication to his country is not a problem for Paul Stalteri, because nothing is better than putting on the maple leaf.
It's the top thing in football to represent your country, and I've been fortunate to represent it at the youth levels and now at the Olympic level and now at the World Cup stage. So it's the most important thing in football, and from my perspective, and it means the most when you put on a jersey and the team can get a victory and hopefully we can build, and hopefully we can qualify for the World Cup, because that'll be the biggest thing ever for my career for sure.
Paul Stalteri and the rest of the Canadian crew will try to get back in this one, trailing 1-0. Jerry and Bob are back with their first half analysis. The Canada Cup of Soccer continues on CTV Sportsnet.
Once again, the Subaru Forester has outperformed the competition, earning the highest overall rating of vehicles tested in its class in a recent crash test. But the real beauty of the Forester is that it can help you avoid accidents altogether by automatically transferring power from the wheels that slip to the wheels that grip for maximum control. Another reason why the competition is a little bent out of shape. Subaru Forester, the beauty of all-wheel drive.
You have your mother's eyes. They hold memories in miniature. There are things that make you cry, that make you laugh. You are the sum of these parts and more. You have a voice that should be heard. Be yourself. Go far. You are not a seat number.
I'm a person.
You defy comparison.
So it's 1-0. Ecuador leads Canada at halftime, and for their first half analysis and thoughts of what lies ahead, let's go upstairs once again to Jerry Dobson and Bob Litterduzzi. Fellas?
Thank you, Roger. Well, Bob, we've talked all week long about how well Ecuador passes the ball, and it paid off for them in the only goal of the game so far.
Well, a little bit of interchange of passing in the middle of the park and resulting in the ball going through to the end line. And if we pick it up from here, we'll see a ball go through from the Ecuadorian midfield, and if the player on the ball is here, we see from there Jim Brennan, and we stop it there. Jim Brennan, unfortunately here, fell asleep for a slight second because the Ecuadorian is able to get in behind him and take the ball to the end line. And if we let it go from there, we'll see that he gets in behind him and now puts a quality cross in. Stop it there. Graziani receives the ball with his back to goal, gets a good first touch, comes off, and then hits a ball with force that Pat Onstad has no chance on. So a good example of the Ecuadorian build-up and the finishing of Graziani.
And so we've seen that Canada has had trouble counterattacking that, and they don't seem to know what to do when Ecuador gets the ball. They seem to lay off a little bit. They've got to obviously change that if they want to mount any offense.
Well, they're 1-0 down right now. They've got to come out and they've got to start pressurizing the Ecuadorians closer to their goal. There's only 45 minutes to go. Perhaps Holger will get some fresh legs on, but certainly Canada needs to take the initiative now.
On the other hand, it seems that whenever a Canadian does get a touch on the ball, an Ecuadorian is right there, either behind him, beside him, whatever, challenging him, and Canada has no time and no space.
Well, and that's an aspect of South American football that people don't appreciate. Everyone assumes that they're great attacking players, but they're very, very comfortable when they're defending it, and this Ecuadorian team is especially comfortable at it.
Now, we know that the Canadians are knocked up a little bit. Brad Parker has come on despite the fact he's got a problem with the toe and is going to have surgery because of a toenail that's grown back in the wrong manner, and yet he's come on as a substitute. So I don't know if we'll see many more substitutions or not, because these guys are banged up.
Well, they are banged up, but this is the last game of the tournament. There's 45 minutes to go. Canada are still in with a shout of winning the tournament, so there's a lot to play for. Perhaps we'll see some fresh legs, perhaps we won't. Holger's been very reluctant throughout this tournament to make changes.
We're at the half, Canada and Ecuador, the final game of the tournament, and it's 1-0 Ecuador right now. Canada needs a win, or they will not win the tournament. Back with more in a moment.
Canada trails 1-0 with 1 half left to play. Lots of time left for Team Canada now. We'll look back on the numbers from the first half of play. Back to Jerry and Bob.
Thank you, Roger. Well, I don't know if the numbers are going to show us a whole lot, because they won't show us all the fine passing by Ecuador and the fact that Canada couldn't gain too much possession. But there you have it for what it's worth.
Well, they really don't tell us a lot. If you look at the facts, it looks like a fairly evenly played contest. The difference being that when Ecuador create chances, it's as a result of a good build-up. When Canada create chances, it's more a result of hitting hopeful balls and hoping that something will be generated from it, and that's the difference in the game.
And folks, we have some substitutions, there you go, to tell you about as we start the second half. Number 11 is Davide Xausa. He's in. There's several we can tell you about, in fact. 16 is Steve Kindel, he's in. Garret Kusch is out. As we said, Xausa is in. Marc Watson is out. And number 2 is Clarke. Jeff Clarke is in, and David Bircham, number 9, is out. So lots of changes for Canada. Once again, in is Kindel, Xausa, and Clarke. Out goes Kusch, Watson, and Bircham. So Holger Osieck really pulling out all the stops here and getting everybody into this final game.
And it can be one of 2 reasons why he's done so. It can be simply that he wants to get a look at players and this is the final opportunity at this point, or it can be that he wasn't happy with the first half of play and he's looking to shake things up, and I think it's a little bit of both.
You wonder what's going through Holger Osieck's mind right now. Graziani with 3 goals in the tournament now, 2 against Guatemala, and the only goal of this game so far, as we are set to go now with the second half of play. The team switching sides, and this is all down to this, and Carlos Sevilla might have the Canada Cup tournament in the bag here if they can hold on to this, or even a tie would do the trick on goal differential over Iran. Canada must win to win the tournament.
I don't think for a minute that Sevilla would be content to defend the lead at this point. I think he's got enough confidence in his team that they can go out and get more. Nor do I think they're going to be reckless either. They've got a 1-0 lead. They'll be happy with that, but they'll continue to play throughout this second half. The initiative is going to have to come from Canada, both from the point of view of trying to pressurize the Ecuadorians closer to their goal, and also, too, they'll need to do a little bit something different when they're on the ball. Right now, it's been it's hopeful balls forward. They'll need to be a little more calculated in that regard.
Attendance today, just over 10,000 people on hand watching this. All week long they've been concerned about the attendance, and it has been soft. They thought they would do better. However, such as it is, a beautiful day here in Edmonton. The people that are out here certainly enjoying what they've seen so far, although a goal from Canada would make them a lot happier.
Substitution for Ecuador at the half, coming in for number 12.
Well, the fresh legs come at a very opportune time. 3 players coming into the match with the benefit of having rested in the first half should give Canada the opportunity to take it to the Ecuadorians, which they didn't do in the first half.
So we are underway, the final half of football in the 1999 edition of the Canada Cup. Jimmy Blandon for Ecuador. Ball goes out of bounds.
That's a great start for Canada. I like to see that. Davide Xausa with an excellent tackle.
And another change we should tell you about. Jose Ceballos is in between the posts for Ecuador, replacing Giovanni Ibarra. So Ibarra is out and Ceballos is in. And here comes Canada now. This is Clarke, one of the substitutes, an Ecuadorian defender. Goes down, but it goes for naught anyway. That was Ivan Hurtado who lost his footing, and it could have been promising for Canada right there. Jim Brennan to De Vos. Ceballos played the other day. He's back in now, replacing Ibarra. Brad Parker. What happened was, we touched on it during the halftime, is he's had the toenail on his kicking foot, on the big toe, lifted off during the course of the season just from wear and tear, he told me, and when it grew back, it didn't grow back properly, and so he has to have surgery on that in Toronto next week. So it's not serious enough to keep him out. However, here's Xausa fighting for the ball with Montano.
Well, the changes seem to have had an impact in the very early going of the second half. There seems to be a lot more jump to this Canadian side now.
Clarke to take the corner kick. In front, there's the header from Tony Menezes, just over the mark.
Good corner in from Clarke. Menezes does well to get across his man. Unfortunately, he just can't keep it down. Actually, it was an excellent opportunity. No challenge from Graziani, and Menezes probably would have liked that one back again and at least hit the target.
Throw into Ecuador. Steve Kindel chasing there, his first action in the tournament, number 16 for Canada. De Vos with the ball forward to Stalteri. More offense for Canada. Xausa, who scored the only Canadian goal in that 1-1 draw against Northern Ireland, the first game under new coach Holger Osieck. Brennan with good work. He's had a fine game today.
He's done very well today, and he's done very well in each of the games prior to this. He certainly made a good impression after finishing up the season at Bristol City.
Brennan with the corner. Cleared out of danger. Bent back in. Menezes.
Well, the whole of the alignment of the Canadian team is much different from what it was at the start of this match. We've got Jeff Clarke on the right, Steve Kindel up front for Garret Kusch, Paul Fenwick in for Marc Watson at the back, and Davide Xausa in for Marc Bircham in midfield.
Brennan. Xausa. Brad Parker. Stalteri. Good move from Stalteri if he can get it in front, and he can't. He's challenged there by De La Cruz.
And there's another good example of the defending tactics of the Ecuadorians. Paul Stalteri did well to get around his man Montoya, but De La Cruz gets back on the cover and makes an excellent tackle in the box. And it needs to be excellent, because if it's missed time, that's a penalty shot.
In front, De Vos with a head on it, and there's Xausa with the equalizer for Canada. Davide Xausa, who has come on in the second half as a substitute, his second goal for Canada, his first in this game, and it's 1-1.
Three players factored hugely in the goal.
The first, Jim Brennan with a great outswinging cross. The second, Jason De Vos, who gets up at the back post. And then thirdly, Davide Xausa, great tight control and smacks it into the corner of the goal. And Canada are full value for the equalizer at this stage in the second half.
Davide Xausa in the 50th minute, right at your camera, right into your living room with that one. And so right now, Holger Osieck looks like a genius. De Vos, Stalteri. Jason bent. De Vos. Kindel fighting for it there. And Parker comes away with it. For Xausa, just out of reach.
And that's unfortunate for Brad Parker. But what is a good sign is that Canada are now getting into those advanced positions, and they've got the Ecuadorians on their heels right now.
De Vos. Carl Fletcher. That one goes out of bounds. Ceballos to put it in play for Ecuador. Very purposeful, very tentative.
Ceballos has
back to the point of being tedious here. And his substitution, and that's perhaps what he was waiting for, so the referee would take notice of that. In comes Hiron Zamora, and out comes Luis Gonzalez. So Zamora getting his first taste of action for Gonzalez. Xausa. Brennan. Xausa. Good work from him. Menezes will take a shot from well out. And you know what? Correct me if I'm wrong, but has Pat Onstad touched the ball in this half?
Well, Pat Onstad hasn't touched it, nor has the ball been in Canada's half all that often. Something that I think has made a difference is actually Garret Kusch, who did well in the first half, but when Garret Kusch is not in there, Canada's less likely to launch balls into the box. Most of the play in this half has gone into players' feet.
Ecuador trying to mount an attack here now. There's a dangerous looking shot. Graziani, oh, and it's an own goal by Jason De Vos.
Well, isn't it the kiss of death? We just said that Ecuador had not been in Canada's half. And Graziani actually has a tap in, and Jason De Vos probably thinks he's going to tap it in, and unfortunately, it goes off of Jason into the back of the net. Great ball into the space. Good ball across the box, which cut Pat Onstad out. And unfortunately for Jason De Vos, it bounces off of him into the goal. And unfortunate for Canada as well, because they'd really come out in the second half and taken the game to Ecuador. And there you can see Jason De Vos devastated with the OG.
Well, I think what fooled him there is he couldn't believe that Graziani did not get a touch on that ball, and all of a sudden it was right there and he couldn't react.
And he couldn't get out of the way.
My goodness, so it's Ecuador 2, Canada 1. 10 minutes gone, just about. Second half.
The second goal for Team Ecuador, scored in the 54th minute, an own goal.
Brad Parker, now Xausa, looking for Stalteri. Trying to touch it through for Parker, too far.
Well, the Canadian defense hasn't really been tested. And I should, in my haste in announcing all of the changes that took place, I had Paul Fenwick coming on for Mark Watson, but in fact, Paul Fenwick is not on the field at this point.
Watson is out, however, and with Canada realigning, they've allowed for the fact that Watson is out. We have Menezes in the back.
And Carl Fletcher and Jason De Vos. So Carl Fletcher has dropped back or moved in from his right flank position into the center of the defense, or across the last line, joining De Vos and Menezes.
Well, Ecuador has gone ahead again, and yet the bulk of the play still in their zone. Fletcher ahead, but Canadian forwards were going the wrong way. Ceballos now. And Ecuador looking ready to make another change. Number 2, Danis Coronel, standing in the sidelines. And if he comes in, that will add some speed to this team, because we saw what he did the other night against Iran. He was very quick on the flank.
And that's right, and I think Silvius is looking at countering what Holger Osieck has done by getting more fresh legs into the team.
That's Graziani. Fletcher on him, and it'll go for a corner. And the referee has still not seen the... Oh, now he has, and so the substitution will take place. Number 11 is Nicolas Asensio. He's coming out, and he will be replaced by number 2, Danis Coronel, who, as we said, played so well when he came on late against Iran. Here comes the corner, and it's by everybody. De La Cruz takes it. Parker on him. De La Cruz in front. Cleared out of danger by Steve Kindel.
In for number 11, Nicolas Asensio. Number 2, Danis Coronel.
De La Cruz has been rather quiet for the Ecuadorians in this game today, which is an indicator that that Ecuador have not had a great deal of attacks into the Canadian end.
Anangono. Hurtado looking for number 4 is Montano. Number 6 is, number 8 is Blandon. In deep for Graziani. Onstad is there. De Vos. Up front is Kindel, and he takes a foot to the head, but they say it was not a dangerous kick.
Well, Steve was doing a good job of shielding the ball, and I don't think he thought that the Ecuadorian defender could wrap his foot around as much as he did. Coming in down the side.
Number 3 is Ivan Hurtado there.
And I don't know if I would have given a free kick there either. It was a good challenge.
Just over half an hour to go. Canada needing 1 to draw. Coronel. De La Cruz losing it there. Brennan back to De Vos for the clear. Stalteri. Clarke. Stalteri. Blandon all over him.
Clarke's been very effective since he's come on at the start of the second half. He's kept the team in possession, making good runs down the right flank.
Hurtado leaving it for Ceballos.
I think Davide Xausa was looking to try and win a corner by knocking it off the Ecuadorian defender. Stayed in play and is now in the goalkeeper's hands.
Xausa also is suffering an injury with his foot as well. He's picked up an infection between the small toe on his, I think it's his left foot, between the 4th and 5th toes. Not serious enough to keep him out of action, but something that's been bothering him. Herrera goes down and quickly back up. Ecuador's ball.
good skill to get through the middle, and in the end he runs into Menezes.
Hurtado. Coronel. De La Cruz. Parker chasing him. Menezes there to break it up. Hurtado chips it forward for Anangono. Coronel. Devos for Canada. Menezes with a flick on.
Well, Canada started off the half with the flurry, maintained that until the time they scored a goal, and looked to be getting the better of the Ecuadorians until the unfortunate own goal by Jason De Vos. And now the game has settled down again.
Coronel to put it in play. Brennan, though, with a nice move, takes it. Stalteri. Xausa. Fletcher moves up. Clarke. Let's send it down to the sidelines. Roger, what have you got?
All right, Jerry. I mean, certainly Canada has to do something quickly to regain that momentum. At one time, the bench was up and very excited after the goal by Xausa, and certainly the own goal hurt their cause, but that's something they'll have to get, is that momentum and get their enthusiasm back up here in the second half.
And they've got 28 minutes and change in which to do it and mount something. Anangono. Hopeful ball there. Unable to control it was De La Cruz. Menezes. And the life really has been sucked out of this game by that own goal.
If you concede a good goal, that's bad enough, but to concede the type of goal that Jason De Vos did, it really does take the wind out of yourselves, especially when you've worked so hard to come back and equalize in a game that you really had been out of in the first half.
Fletcher challenges Graziani and takes the ball from him. Menezes forward to Clarke. There's Stalteri. And the ball just out of the reach of Steve Kindel. Parker moves up. It's still looking good for Canada. Back to Parker, back to Brennan. And here's Xausa. And over the top it goes.
That all started with another quality ball from Jeff Clarke out on the right to play Paul Stalteri in behind the defense. Here we see Jim Brennan getting another good cross into the box, partially cleared by the Ecuadorians. Davide Xausa collects it on the edge of the box, beats his man, falls to Brad Parker, who tries to bend it in the top corner.
A good flurry there for Canada. Now back the other way. Xausa in a bit of trouble there, but gets it back to Onstad. Menezes. Brennan with lots of room. Menezes again. Xausa tried to touch it on to Stalteri, but Stalteri had gone too far.
Well, both Menezes and Brennan were on the ball at the back, and Menezes, you could see motioning to his players up front for some movement. There wasn't a lot of options for him on the ball. So Canada constantly need to be moving to create options for the players on the ball, whether they're at the back or in the middle of the field.
Here's Xausa for Clarke. In front. Parker is there, and he can't hit the mark with it.
But Parker does well to get into the box from his midfield position, but once again Jeff Clarke out on the right has provided some great quality balls and just wraps his foot around the ball to the far post. Parker gets up and over the Ecuadorian, and the Ecuadorian does enough just to put him off.
So some promising stuff here from Canada, with under 25 minutes remaining.
Most of the good attacks are coming from Jim Brennan down the left and Jeff Clarke down the right. And that seems to be stretching the Ecuadorian defense.
Hurtado. Anangono. For De La Cruz. Brennan with the flick back to De Vos.
Good play.
De Vos. And Brennan. Good work from Brennan. And then a bad ball forward for Stalteri. But that was some good defensive work for the Canadian side to get the ball out of danger.
Good defensive work and good composure at the back without taking any unnecessary risks. Jason De Vos, instead of choosing to play it down the line, plays a 1-2 with Menezes into Brennan. Brennan turns and nutmegs through the legs of the Ecuadorian forward. Unfortunately, clips the ball out of play down the side. He probably had a rush of blood. He was so pleased with the fact that he put it through the legs of the Ecuadorian.
Coronel for Ecuador. De La Cruz now. Ecuador looking to mount a challenge here. Anangono. Zamora. Blandon.
Well, Canada doing a good job defensively, but at the same time, Canada being a goal down, need to come and get the ball.
And you can see what Ecuador is doing here. They're in no hurry. In Canada, it was going to end up doing a lot of running. This is good work here from Ecuador right now, but
keeping possession.
Clarke. Graziani takes it from him, but he fouled him in doing so.
Well, Graziani's had a great tournament. 3 goals, 1 assist. Plays with Necaxa in Mexico, one of the top Mexican club sides.
Menezes lofts one up for Stalteri, who puts it into the middle, but Kindel wasn't there. Montano. Looking for Kagawa, taken by Clarke. Menezes, plenty of room to push forward. There's Kindel. Oh, to Stalteri, and he's offside. Flag is up.
Holger Osieck not happy with the decision of the linesman. And actually it came off of an Ecuadorian defender, which should result in him not being offside. And I think that's probably what Holger Osieck was upset about.
And another look at that last play.
Well, and that is exactly what's happened. Off the Ecuadorian defender, and that makes Paul Stalteri onside.
And in the meantime, we've got an Ecuadorian player down.
To be fair to the linesman on the far side, he may not have been in a position to see that, but the referee was, so he could have overruled his linesman or his referee's assistant.
Franklin Anangono is the player down as play continues. Parker for Brennan. Taken away by Coronel. De Vos knocks it away. And Holger Osieck, I can see him from here, is standing on the sidelines exhorting his players on. And I think he might have a complaint there as well.
And a valid one. Xausa's done very well since he's come on. Been very effective, good close control, keeping his team in possession, and of course has scored Canada's only goal.
Kindel then to Bent. In front to Xausa, who takes a run at it. But it's right at Ceballos. Davide Xausa has been obviously quite effective since coming on. Bent fouling his man, so Ecuador gets the ball. Ivan Hurtado. Anangono has recovered. His back was the problem, and they fixed him up. And so he's back out, Anangono, as Canada takes over with Fletcher. Menezes. Bent. De Vos. Xausa on for Brennan. He was looking for Stalteri. In the way was Hurtado. The ball forward for Graziani. Everybody's looking for offside. It's not given. Graziani in front. Bent, though, comes back nicely. Ecuador coming back again. Graziani in front. And that one just over the bar.
Good effort from long range, but Pat Onstad saw it all the way.
Stalteri watched by Montano. He takes the ball, gives it to Blandon. Brad Parker. Ceballos takes over, again very slowly for Ecuador. They've got the lead, and if it holds, or even if Canada comes back to tie, Ecuador will be the Canada Cup champion.
Well, Canada have made 4 substitutions. They're allowed 1 more. And I would think as time winds down that Holger might take advantage of that in lieu of the fact that the subs that he made at the half obviously made an impact.
A little more than quarter of an hour still to play.
Please call 463-1793.
Jeff Clarke will take a corner for Canada.
We ask you to
It's
take
in short.
call as soon as possible.
And it's another corner for Canada.
463-1793 or contact the media booth for more information.
Well, Jeff Clarke's been providing excellent service since he came on at the beginning of the second half down the right flank.
In there, and Ceballos knocks it away. And then cleared from danger. Fletcher, De Vos is way up there. De Vos not liking that call, going Ecuador's way. Coronel throwing. Zamora. Zamora again.
The ball's changing possession quite a bit in this.
One touch for each player there for a while. Then Fletcher takes it, then he's got Clarke. But again, nobody controlling.
Graziani
down in a heap
free
on that.
kick there.
Well, and he's making the most out of this one.
Graziani controls the ball, shields it, and then collapses in a heap. As to why, well, only he knows.
He thinks he took a knee in the midsection from Carl Fletcher. Less than 15 minutes now, still to play. Getting desperate for Canada. Iran leads with 5 points going into this game. Ecuador with 4, Canada with 3. Guatemala with 1. They tied Iran earlier today, 1-1. Kindel to Stalteri. Here's Parker to take a shot, and just over the bar. Good opportunity there. Canada has had their chances.
They have, and that actually was a chance that was made a better opportunity by Brad Parker's good skill. That's not an easy shot. The ball's bouncing awkwardly. He catches it nicely on the half volley. And Savalos wasn't quite sure whether that was going to hit the target or not. He was struggling to get there.
Hurtado for Ecuador. Challenged by Stalteri. Now Zamora. Anangono. Throw into Canada.
Well, most of these players are playing in Europe, except for Carl Fletcher's with the Hampton Roads Mariners of the A-League. Most of these players will be taking a well-deserved break after this, albeit not a long one, because most preseasons will be starting up in July at some time.
De Vos will take it for Canada. Chips it forward for Xausa, but Anangono is there to clear. And this time it'll be a throw-in for Jason De Vos. The unfortunate victim of an own goal that simply bounced in off him. He had nothing to do with it, really. Wrong place at the wrong time. Here's Stalteri. Brennan. Coronel clears. Fletcher now. Clarke. Bent. He's upset. Play continues. There's Xausa. Good work. And the Canadians could just not penetrate the defensive line. De La Cruz counters for Ecuador. Looking for Graziani. Fletcher heads it away. Menezes. Brennan there is.
Good play by Brennan. Brennan's looked very, very composed on the ball and actually has gotten better with each game throughout this tournament.
Fletcher now for Canada. Winding down here. Just under 11 minutes, plus extra time to go. Menezes for Brennan over his head. De Vos goes down after that header. And a yellow card comes out for De La Cruz on that one. So the caution to De La Cruz on that challenge to De Vos.
Jason is going to win this all the way, and De La Cruz got his foot up just a little bit high.
Brennan to take it for Canada. Ceballos well off his line to take that one easily.
Jason De Vos not happy. I've talked about balls being hung up in the air, and that's exactly what that was done, and it gives the goalkeeper every opportunity to come out and collect it. Jason De Vos has run up from the back to the front, and then it's a long way back again once the goalkeeper has the ball in his hands.
Graziani fouled there by... No, they say not. Play goes on. Montano. Landon to Zamora. Fletcher will take that. Now Menezes. De La Cruz looking for Graziani. He had Moreira with him, but could not make that one work.
Well, whatever they've got left, they'll want to leave it on the field now. 9 minutes to go. The game's settled down.
It has. Here's Xausa, the goal scorer for Canada. Clarke into the box, headed away by Anangono, not out of danger, and then finally out of danger by Zamora.
Jason De Vos will look to utilize the long throw once again.
The crowd starting to get a little bit boisterous now, urging Canada on. Time running short. Moreira chips it away. Graziani tugging with Fletcher. Here's Graziani. He'll try to outrun Fletcher, and then he'll foul him. And that was almost exactly what Tony Menezes was red carded for. In this case, it's a yellow.
Well, obviously, Graziani's not familiar with Carl Fletcher. He tried to knock it around the outside of him and run inside, and he's never going to outstrip Carl Fletcher.
Canada with the ball. Stalteri, though, gives it away. Menezes. Canada pushing forward here. Getting desperate. Xausa. De Vos. De La Cruz for Ecuador. Xausa after him. But he gets by everybody, including Menezes, and he's got Graziani, who misses it. Missed it completely.
Well, to be fair to Graziani, I think it did take a bobble right at the last minute.
And he's still down. On his knees, finally. He was flat out there. And now Onstad helps him up, just out of play, as Canada continues to come back.
That was a rare example on that occasion of De La Cruz's ability down the right. We haven't seen a lot of him today, but he did manage to spring himself free, played a good ball into the box, all lined up for Graziani to have a strike, and up it goes, and he's swinging it air.
Brennan now losing the ball to Coronel. De La Cruz again. He is good. He hasn't shown a whole lot this game until recently. Parker. Stalteri.
And they're just fighting it a little bit right now. They just can't get the ball under comfortable control.
Throw into Ecuador. The players who have come on in the second half have done extremely well for Canada in substitution roles. Bent for Parker. Landon, though, knocks it away.
And here Holger Osieck, he's actually motioning for Jason De Vos to go up front. So right now Canada leaves themselves a little bit more exposed at the back in hopes that Jason De Vos can use his aerial strength up front to produce the equalizer.
Here's Coronel. Went off Brennan to Onstad. Clarke. Fletcher. Nice ball to Brennan.
Well, if Jason De Vos has gone all the way up front, he wants better service than that. Offside.
There's Graziani offside. Menezes moved up. to force that, and it paid off. Less than 5 minutes plus stoppage time. Xausa to Bent. For Stalteri. In for Clarke. Clarke looking good. Tried to get it to De Vos. But the ball was not quite there, and Franklin Anangono knocked it away for a corner kick.
Brad Parker, good build-up again. Jeff Clarke attacking from the right. Brad Parker and Paul Stalteri are hanging out in the back, and we're desperate to get the ball.
There's the corner, finally knocked out of danger, as Canada had an opportunity there, but the Ecuadorians were all back. Fletcher launches one in for Clarke. De Vos cleared away. Fletcher with lots of room to move forward to Bent. Long one in, looking for Xausa or Kindel. Neither one can do anything with it.
And Ecuador will be quite happy with that. Enables them to settle down, take their time getting the goal kick out. Davide Xausa has perhaps had his best half in a Canadian jersey from the time we saw him play against Guatemala last Saturday when he scored Canada's only goal.
Here's Xausa again for Kindel, if he can get there, and he does. Wasn't able to quite get on it what he would have liked to. And so Ecuador clears away. Canada pushing forward though. Jason Bent. For Stalteri. Here's Bent. Around one man into the box, and Anangono again knocks it away.
Well, let's give Canada credit here. It's not a question of just lumping balls into the box. They're actually building up, and they're getting in along the ground. Just the final ball that's hurting them. Jason Bent, good build-up.
Back live now. Brennan looking for De Vos, who has his head on it, but couldn't get the juice on it, and Ceballos was there.
They've got Ecuador on their heels right now. Under 3 minutes to go, but they've played very well. It hasn't been a question of resorting to just lofted long balls down the middle. They've tried to play their way through, which is a credit to the Canadian team.
Brennan. Kindel. Ecuador back. Blandon. Montano to Blandon. Coronel. De La Cruz. Coronel. Expect lots of passing at this point from Ecuador if they can keep possession. Blandon. Zamora. This is where it's tough for Canada. Ecuador seems to be able to pass it around at will when they really want to. Anangono.
Especially when the clock's winding down as well. You need to get the ball back. Right now, Ecuador doing a good job of killing the clock.
Coronel looking for De La Cruz, who's there, and he's got Graziani in front. And the trailer was Moreira, and he keeps it in play.
What a great bit of skill.
Great play by Moreira to keep the ball in play, nearly caught everybody off guard.
Fans are prohibited from entering the field of play at any time. Any spectator entering the
De La Cruz down the right again, misses Graziani at the near post, but as you say, Moreira trailing, but doesn't give up on it. Nice little hitch kick. Graziani could have had himself another.
Not much time left for Canada now. Under 2 minutes. Clarke for Bent. Bent still fighting, but the Ecuadorian team come away with it. De La Cruz chips it off to Moreira. There's Graziani. He's got De La Cruz in the middle. Coronel on the right side. Fighting with Fletcher.
Graziani quite content now.
And he's able to chip it in front. And Coronel, a little unlucky there. Kindel. too far for Brennan. And Holger having words with Anangono.
Holger wanting Anangono to catch the ball and throw it back in.
Coronel to put it in play. There will be 3 minutes of injury time. And that's all that's left in the Canada Cup tournament for Canada to try and come out of this with a draw. Xausa.
We're going to leave that for Jason De Vos. No, Jim Brennan's going to come and take it.
He leaves it for Brennan to take the throw in. And by the way they're lined up, he'll go all the way in with this one.
Scoring goals, setting up goals. He's cleared 2 off the line. But if you look at the final standings, it pretty much went the way we anticipated right at the outset. Ecuador looked the best team. They won it. Iran finished second, Canada finished third, and Guatemala brought up the rear.
Holger Osieck made some lineup changes to start this second half. It looked as though it was going to pay off, and it did initially on a goal by Davide Xausa. And Roger Millions is standing by live with him now. Roger?
Thanks very much, Jerry. What an outstanding second half it was. I know the result was not what anyone wanted, but David, you and the rest of the substitutes came in, and what a tremendous second half Canada had.
Yeah, but we're not happy with the result, you know. The boys, I think we could have put a little bit more in. I think maybe the games were getting to us, but I mean, the subs came in and did well, changed the game a bit, but we're not happy with that.
I guess the disappointing thing was you had built up momentum with your goal, and then just seconds later, a very, very tough break.
Yeah, I mean, it's nobody's fault. It's one of those things that happens. It's football. Jason, I'm sure, would love to have it back, but I mean, we gave it all we could, but I mean, still, I don't think it's good enough.
David, overall in the Canada Cup tournament, how would you assess Team Canada's play?
It's a tough question. I mean, we've done well at times, but nowhere near where we should be. I mean, it's early on. I think we're going to get better, but still, we need to get a lot better quickly, you know?
Well, thanks very much, David. I know it's a disappointing loss, but congratulations on the tournament.
Yeah, thanks very much.
All right, Davide Xausa with the lone goal for Canada today. As the Canadians lose to Ecuador, Ecuador, the champions of the Canada Cup tournament. We're back on CTV Sportsnet in a moment.
And so the final score of today's game, Ecuador 2 and Canada 1, and you might be able to hear the cheering in the background. That is for the Canadian team who acknowledged the fans here at Commonwealth Stadium. Well, a disappointing finish. Obviously, the most disappointed man in the stadium will be Jason De Vos, I guess, based on that own goal. If not for that, Canada played these guys pretty well equal, I think.
They did. They still need to be a little more patient on the ball, and when they were, especially late on in the game, they looked like generating things. And let's face it, they're a very inexperienced team at this point. These are the types of games they need to get better, and they will get better.
Talk about the progress that Canada has made in this tournament and what they need to do to get to the next level.
Well, they need to continue to play games like this. And what they also need, too, is they need to get the likes of the Pescasolitos, the Rzinskis, the Corazins, the Forrests. They need those guys in the squad. They need to play as many games as they can so that when it comes to World Cup qualifying time, there will be no unanswered questions.
The subs come on for Canada, and they make a difference. Canada gets a goal, but still loses 2-1 to Ecuador, who wins the tournament. Iran finishes second. Canada finishes third, and a disappointment for Jason De Vos on that one. More from Commonwealth Stadium in a moment.
You have your mother's eyes. They hold memories in miniature. There are things that make you cry, that make you laugh. You are the sum of these parts and more. You have a voice that should be heard. Be yourself. Go far. You are not a seat number.
I'm a person.
You defy comparison.
Elevator to lobby. By George.
Contacts, $320. Treadmill, $800. Wonder Bra, $26. Facelift, $3,000. Being happy with who you are, priceless. There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's MasterCard. Happily accepted most everywhere.
Canada Cup Soccer on Sportsnet is brought to you by Adidas. Long live sport. JVC, when performance matters. MasterCard. There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's MasterCard. Proud sponsors of World Cup 2002. And by McDonald's. McDonald's is proud to be a part of the 1999 Canada Cup of Soccer. Did somebody say McDonald's?
So Ecuador wins the 1999 Canada Cup Soccer Tournament. They close the deal with a 2-1 win over Canada thanks to the own goal. Went off Jason De Vos. The final standings look like this. Ecuador with 7 points. And actually, throughout the entire tournament, the class of the field, Iran with 5, Canada sticks with 3 with a win and 2 losses in their last 2 games, and Guatemala with their draw earlier in the day with Iran with a single point. Hang on for Sports Central on CTV Sportsnet. There are the times in your region for Sports Central later today on CTV Sportsnet. Again, the final this afternoon, Ecuador beats Canada 2-1. Ecuador wins the 1999 Canada Cup Tournament. For Jerry Dobson and Bob Lenarduzzi and our entire telecast crew, this is goodbye from Commonwealth Stadium in Edmonton.